Welcome to a series that we call The End of Times, where we look at biblical prophetic events to try our best to understand what it is we can expect in the end times, or the times Jesus referred to as the end of the age. So we're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse to try our best to interpret all of this so we can see what it is we can expect. So we've gone through the book of Revelation up until the point where we're at now is John has been taken up into the little throne room of God, and he is given a chance to look around that throne room. We've spent a couple episodes on that. And then last episode we were finally shown a scroll in the right hand of him who sits on the throne. So this episode we're just going to pick it up right where we left off. So we're in Revelation 5 starting in verse 2. Then I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seals?" And no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look at it. So I wept much, because no one was found worthy to open and read the scroll or to look at it. But one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll and loose its 7 seals." So we're going to stop there and we're going to kind of take a look at what just took place. So he sees this scroll and then a strong angel. Now, a strong angel, looking that word up, is essentially a mighty angel with great authority, proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seals?" Now on 3 it says, "And no one in heaven and on the earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look at it." So no one, meaning the word "en" is no one. It's among everybody. There is no one. And where it says in heaven or on the earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look at it. Now, in heaven, we know what that is, and on earth, we know what that is. But to open it, but what is under the earth was unable to open it. Now, that's an interesting thing, because the wording there is actually meaning to, it's GES, G-E-S, it's essentially on the earth or below its soil. So so anything in all of creation of God, there is nobody worthy, essentially underground, deep in the dark crevices of the earth, under the soil, there is nobody, is what they're meaning here. Now, I find it interesting in 5:4 that he wept bitterly. And this word is meaning sob, or he wept much. And I kind of wondered, like, why did this make him so sad? And I've thought about that quite a bit. I think there's a couple things there, and this is just why would I tried, okay, if I was in John's shoes, why would this make me sad? So this is just my own interpretation of if it was me, why I would be sad. There's a couple reasons. One, it's the lack of truth being spoken into existence. If there's something true about the coming of a kingdom and it can't be revealed, that would certainly make me sad. The other piece of this is I've found, as I've grown closer to God, oftentimes when I think of God, it makes me cry. I'm just being honest with you. When I'm speaking about God in a public setting, or I'm just talking to somebody about God, oftentimes when I just think about the love that God has for me, it makes me weep. And so I'm not really sure what this is, why John is weeping. I can only say why maybe I might be weeping if I was in his shoes. Starting in verse 5, "But one of the elders said to me, 'Do not weep. Behold, the Lion.'" Now, that's capital L, so that's a title. The Lion of the tribe of Judah. It's a name. "The Root of David," that's a name. That's all caps. "Has prevailed to open the scroll and loose its 7 seals." Now, I want to point out a couple things in this number 5. First of all, the elders are aware of Jesus. They are aware of him because they're speaking about it. So, I believe we talked about this previously, I think 3 episodes ago, that the elders, I believe, are humans. Again, there's a lot of great reasons why we think that. So they're aware. Now, he says to me, "Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed Now, what does that mean to prevail? It means he's accomplished something. Something has been accomplished in this root of David, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Something has been prevailed. So I want to take a moment and look at a peculiar verse in the book of John. If we take a look at the book of John, it's the very end, and John's the only account that says this after Jesus has risen from the dead. If we look at John 20:16, Jesus said to her, Mary. She turned and said to him, Rabboni, which is to say, teacher. And Jesus said to her, do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. Now, the reason I point this out is because let's now go back into the throne room of God and what is about to take place. So in 6 it says, and I looked, and behold, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 living creatures, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb as though it had been slain. Now, that's pretty significant, because what I think took place here is Mary went to touch Jesus, and he said, don't touch me, because I have to ascend to the Father first. So he had to give this offering to the Father, and I think what we're seeing is that offering in the throne room of God, because keeping in mind, God is outside of time. He's living in the beginning, middle, and the end all at the same time. So God is experiencing the beginning of the creation, the coming of his kingdom, and everything in the middle at the same time. So what we're possibly seeing here is that had to be given as a sacrifice literally in the throne room of God. And here in the midst of us is this slain lamb. And of course, later Jesus appeared to many, and many of them did touch him. And they did grab a hold of him and touch him, and he didn't say, don't do this anymore. So something took place between that time with Mary to that time. Now, it's very important that we understand, why is a slain lamb such a big deal in the throne room of God? Well, that's a huge piece of this, and it's very important we understand it, because when sin entered the world with Adam and Eve, death entered the world. God had to separate man from the tree of life, because he had eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And if he has the knowledge and he lives forever, he's going to turn this earth into this corrupt kingdom of where he just goes on and on for eternity, destroying everything, because once sin and death entered the world, man was shut off from this thing. If we lived forever with corruption, we would literally, physically, and spiritually destroy ourselves. And he can't let one single sin into heaven, because then heaven becomes corrupt like earth. So if I tell one tiny lie, I cannot enter into the holy presence of a holy God, because darkness cannot exist in the light. It's a physical impossibility. So God, loving man, he made a way by becoming mortal. Not because he had to, but because he loved us so much that he laid down his own life. In the very first generation of Adam and Eve, God showed them that the only way to be in his holy presence was with a blood sacrifice, because he knew that the only way to bring about the coming of his kingdom was the ultimate sacrifice of him becoming flesh and laying down his life to cleanse all the sin of our past, present, and future. And that's really what it's all about. That's why this lamb that is slain is so critical to this exact moment, because the whole story is about the coming of a kingdom. And I've often heard people say that, you know, why would I want to worship a God who makes me, you know, if I don't worship you, you're going to condemn me to hell? That's not what it is. It's almost as if you have thrown yourself off of a ship into a storming sea, and God is laying down his life trying to save you, and you're saying, well, I don't want your help if I have to go into, if I have, you know, the only way I can get into your boat is to get your help. Well, I don't want your help. Is really the same thing. But yet this first generation of humans knew, and every generation after that knew, that there had to be a blood sacrifice. That what was needed to turn darkness into light was the blood of an innocent lamb. So this has been known from the very first generation of humans to the very last generation of humans. So God became human, breakable, fragile man, and hung on a cross for you and for me, so we can boldly enter into his holy presence like these 24 elders, literally in the throne room of God with him in his presence, worshiping like they worship him. In the temple of God, the only way that a priest could enter into the Holy of Holies, the literal dwelling place of that temple, was they first had to make a sacrifice of an innocent, spotless lamb for themselves. Then they could enter in there. Otherwise, they'd fry the second they got in there. So it's important that we understand that this is the only way that we have to enter into the presence of God, was God had to become man and lay down his life. And now, who is worthy to bring about that kingdom? Well, of course, it's the blood of the Lamb. And Jesus tells Mary, don't touch me. I have to bring something up to my Father first. And now we are presented. So here we are in the throne room of God, seeing who is worthy to anoint the coming of his kingdom by opening this scroll and pouring out reality as God reads this scroll. So let's, before we get on to open this scroll, I do want to also make a comment on the 7 horns and the 7 eyes. That's a little weird. So the 7 horns, the word there is kar, it's K-A-R, and that refers to as an animal horn. So we're not talking about like a trumpet horn. And it's typically, this word is an example of authority or power. And of course, 7 is the number of perfection. So these, essentially, God has power and authority and vision, and those are the 7 spirits of God. And we went over what the 7 spirits of God are in chapter 1, a couple different episodes we covered that. But it's ultimately the perfection of God. If you have these 7 characteristics, you're omnipresent, omniperfect, awesome God. Like, it's perfection. All right, so let's move on. Verse 7. Then he came and took the scroll out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. Now when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. Now, I want to pause there for a second, because when we talked about the 4 living creatures last time, a lot of people said these were demonic things, satanic things. Clearly they are not. They would not be worshiping and going everywhere the throne of God goes and the power of the throne feeds them. Like, they are clearly holy, holy creatures. And they're also not part of, they are living creatures. They are alive, and clearly. So I just want to shut that down real quick. Here we see them worshiping him. So, they're clearly of God. And they sang a new song, saying, you are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seal, for you were slain and have redeemed us to God by your blood. There we go back to what Jesus said about, I have to ascend to my Father first. Out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation, and have made us kings and priests to our God, and we shall reign on earth. Now, 5:10, where he says, made us kings and priests to our God, this is significant. You have to understand that the Bible time and time and time again refers to you and refers to me as adopted children, adopted heirs of the King. We are heirs to the throne of God, is how the Bible describes us. And this is essentially confirming that and speaking that into reality of what Jesus has achieved here. And that's a very important piece. And it says that we shall reign on earth, and we shall reign on earth. This is a promise of victory in this statement right here, and it's very important that we see it like that. As we visualize ourselves going through tribulation, it's important that we see that in the end we are made kings and priests, and we reign here on earth with Jesus Christ. It's an important note to make. It's not just a worshiping song. There's important pieces of here. Let's pick up in 11. Then I looked, and I heard the voice of many angels around the throne, the living creatures and the elders, and of the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and a thousands of thousands, meaning it was a lot of angels. I've kind of looked up what this number might mean, and the best I get is we're talking millions and millions, unknown millions, is kind of what we're looking at here. So what are they saying? Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. They get it. Now it's important that we notice here that even the angels get it. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessings. Of all of the creation of God, all of it, the angels, the creatures, everything, earth, all the animals, everything in space, everything that God had created, he died for humans. And the angels see that. He didn't die for angels. He didn't die for these four living creatures. He died for us. He died for you and he died for me, and that's an important piece that we see, and the angels recognize it. Let's go on to 13. And every creature which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth and such as are in the sea and all that are in them, I heard saying, blessing and honor and glory and power be to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever. Now, this is kind of a fascinating piece that I definitely want to spend some time on, because it says that every single creature which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth, such as are in the sea and all that are in them. So we're talking everything that God has ever created is crying out. So God's creation is worshiping him. And this is important that we take a second and talk about why this is taking place. And there's two places that we should look at here. The first one is in Romans chapter 8, verse 19 through 23, where it says, for the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope. Because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groans and labors with the birth pangs together until now. And not only they, but we also, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the redemptions of our body. What's taking place here is all of creation is put into bondage, and all of it is ready to be set free. So what does that look like? Well, Isaiah shows us exactly what that looks like in Isaiah 11, starting in verse 6. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play by the cobra's hole, and the weaned child shall put his hand in the viper's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountains. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the water covers the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse. They just, again, called him the root of David. David's the son of Jesse. Who shall stand as a banner to the people? For the Gentiles shall seek him, and his resting place shall be glorious. It shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time, to recover the remnant of his people who are left. So all of creation in this moment will be perfect. There will be no death, no need of anything, no sickness, no pain, no suffering. That is what creation is crying out and worshiping for. So what do they say? Blessing and honor and glory and power be to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever. And then the four living creatures said, Amen. And the 24 elders fell down and worshiped him who lives forever and ever. And man, what an awesome thing. So here we got this scroll, and what an awesome thing for God to do, to be worthy to say, you know, now it is time to, let's now open this up, because we now are created immortal as humans, and we now are perfected in the blood of Jesus Christ. So now it's ready. Now it is time to loose those seals and read into reality what it is God has ordained inside that scroll. And only the Lamb of God is capable of saying it is time. So there you go. This is really, I think this is one of my favorite parts of all of Revelation, just to see, well, what is taking place in heaven, and what is it Jesus did, and why did he do it? I think it's completely clear here. The very next episode, we will open the very first seal. So we're going to start on chapter 6, verse 1. So the very next episode, we're opening that seal. So you guys, thank you for sticking with us. Continue to comment. I love reading what you have to say. If you have any thoughts on any of this we went over today, definitely put that below. But if you like this video, click like and subscribe. The most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests. Never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.